January is usually the doldrums for the housing market, but 2020 could be the exception. Realtor.com says its latest analysis finds January is catching up to April for people starting their home search. Let's talk about this with George Ratiu, senior economist at Realtor.com. He's in our D.C. bureau this morning. George, always good to see you. I thought the spring season was the best time to buy a home. What's going on here?
Well, great question, Brian. And it turns out that as demand for housing remains robust as we kick off 2020, with the inventory situation being as tight as it has been, and we've had 5 consecutive months of inventory declines, likely approaching about double digits, it turns out that buyers who want to get a leg up on the spring shopping season have to start a lot earlier. And our data reveals that for 20 of the top 100 largest markets in the U.S., January has become the start of the spring shopping season.
Let's talk about some of those markets specifically, George. Where are we seeing that spike for demand in housing in the month of January?
So, Alexis, we're seeing that in large metro areas which have been struggling with affordability over the last few years, like New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Atlanta, markets where prices have outpaced incomes by a fairly wide margin, and where a lot of construction really has been focused on infill and the upper end of the market. So for first-time buyers, these markets are places where, in a sense, their search has been going on for quite a while, and there's no time like January, I guess, to get a start on it.
George, we are off a pretty tremendous year for the stock market. Do you think the market's gains last year will translate to a major pickup in the housing market in the first half of this year?
So in terms of markets, they are obviously very respondent to what happens globally. And we saw really early this year already, Central Bank of China announcing monetary stimulus, so stocks responded quite well. But it also underlies economic weakness, both obviously in China, but in some of the other markets. So I think that the housing market overall will see tremendous gains in demand this year. However, the inventory situation is the only obstacle in the way that's likely to tamp down activity the first half of this year.
What about this shift to January for real estate? Does it mean that some of the more competitive spring months might not be as competitive anymore?
Well, Alexis, I think that based on our data, we're seeing the spring months remain as competitive as ever. The only difference is that for a lot of folks, and interestingly enough, our survey shows about a quarter of first-time buyers have spent over a year looking for a home. So for those folks, really there's a little break in the buying season, and many first-time buyers are trying to leverage the still low mortgage rates, which offer convenient and very favorable financing.
Why haven't we seen a pickup in inventory just yet? Rates are low. Why aren't builders out there making homes?
So for a lot of builders, the situation is one in which you look at the last 10 years, we are having many fewer builders. In the wake of the recession, a lot of local, regional businesses went out and they didn't come back. So for the large builders, there's a little wiggle room in terms of being able to focus on certain products that provide large enough profit margins. And so there hasn't been the pressure to build more affordable the product. We are seeing them adjust, actually, and they announced that 2020, they're going to move towards the more affordable price range, which is pretty much where most of the demand is.
Yep, those first-time home buyers. George Ratiu, always good to see you. Thanks so much and happy 2020.
Same to you.
Hey investors, Zach Guzman here. Are you interested in learning more about the markets and getting the latest financial news? Well, then click right here to subscribe to our Yahoo Finance YouTube channel. Get the latest up-to-the-minute market analysis, big interviews in the world of finance, and information on how to manage your money every day wherever you are.